Hello, everyone. My name is Ekaterina Kardakova. I'm an opera singer, voice, and public speaking coach. And this is my podcast, The Sound of Success, a new episode with a very interesting guest, as always, as usual, Alpana Aras. She is a New York published photographer and brand strategist who is specializing on AI visuals. And this is the topic of this podcast. How can you use AI for your visual branding? Hello, Alpana. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You have such an interesting biography. When we talked a little bit more before, you said that you do so many different things. So, what's your favorite? And first of all, why did you decide to focus on AI visuals in terms of personal branding?
Well, let me see if I can take you a little bit down memory lane. So, I'm originally from India. I'm an immigrant. I studied art out there. And along the way, when I came to the US, I worked for direct marketing companies and agencies as well. So, I have over 25 years in advertising, marketing, design, photography. And I did all of that. And a couple years ago, AI caught my eye, and I'm somebody who is curious about technology. So I started exploring AI and I really loved it. At that time, AI was still in its infancy and it's still evolving now, but I was fascinated with the idea of being able to create images using AI. And as an artist and as somebody who likes to use my left brain and right brain, I got curious about it and I started learning after spending hours and hours and thousands of dollars on how to combine these two. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Very interesting. We've been talking about that some people have this resistance to AI because I thought, like as I said before, let's record this because this is very important. And you said it's all about mindset. So basically, we at least here in Europe are not that fast like people in US in terms of technologies. They come a little later. Some of them come very late. However, we still talk a lot about AI and how can we implement AI, for example, in business processes. And in terms of personal branding, what do you think? What kind of future the AI visuals have, and why? What are the advantages of these visuals? So, despite that, it creates maybe even bigger and more catchy pictures.
Right. Okay, so you have a couple parts to your question, and I'm going to start with the first one about the resistance part of it because I think that's really important. I have a confession. Even for me, originally, I was resistant to stepping into the field. I'm a traditional photographer, and even within the photography industry, there is a lot of uncertainty about AI replacing human beings. And I think that carries over in a lot of different fields. However, the way I feel is that AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So either we adapt to it or, we get left behind. That's the way I see it. So it did take me a considerable amount of time to say, okay, I'm ready to step into AI. And even today, as I was sharing with you earlier, I shared some of my work in a Facebook group, and there was somebody who was uh, kind of made a comment about one of my images, which is essentially me riding a tiger, which is clearly an AI image. And she said, that's not the real you. And the real person, would be somebody presenting themselves in an XYZ way. And for me, it really is a matter of as somebody again who's been working in advertising and the other industries, we've created ads for generations which have been altered. So, there's a certain sense of what's real and what's fake, right? Like we have models who are airbrushed. We see magazine covers that have been retouched. Now, even on a personal level, we as women use filters on our phones, or we are whitening our skin or our teeth or putting on makeup. So all of that has an illusion of being real, right? And AI, for me, it's just a tool which can actually support you, especially if you are a small business who needs to create a visual brand and put your image out there. Because at the end of the day, it's impressions matter, and the first impression that people may have of you. Because when somebody lands on your website, it's the first impression. You're not given an opportunity to talk to your audience and convince them that you are a legitimate person. A book is judged by its cover. So
Mm.
you have those 7 seconds, as they say, or short amount of time, that attention span when somebody lands and they're like, oh, yeah, this is a legit person or this is not a legit person. And often it's your visual brand which can create that sense of authority. It can do the talking for you when you cannot do the talking yourself. So that's why I feel that your images, whether they are AI or traditional images, they do make a difference in supporting your brand and making an impact.
So basically, you say that they are the game changer, the AI tools, in terms of advertisement, personal branding. But what is better, AI or like real, the old school? Or it depends. What do you think?
Um, I think that's a question which I don't see as completely black and white, because currently, as a photographer, I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. And as a photographer, I do traditional photo shoots and I also do AI image creation. The traditional photo shoots are really powerful because when my clients step in front of the camera, it can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like you're not always in your own skin, right? Like somebody is seeing you and it creates a sense of discomfort because you're suddenly on alert, sort of a thing. So it's a really transformative process if you're in the hands of the right photographer who supports you, creates a safe environment, guides you, poses you, so you're not kind of doing all these things on your own. So I will always recommend a traditional photo shoot. At the same time, with the AI image creation, if you're somebody who absolutely does not want to step in front of the camera for whatever reason, it's an option, right? It's an option, it's a choice. And you also look at it as an economical choice because the costs associated with the traditional photo shoot are a lot higher because of the clothing, the hair, the makeup, and all the other things, and your time. Whereas with the AI image creation, it's a lot more economical. And the results can also be faster. So there are advantages and disadvantages, I would say, and it entirely depends on the person and their goals eventually, right? What are your goals? So that's where you kind of start. Like, do you just, if you want to save money and you don't want to step in front of the camera for whatever reason, I would recommend a AI session. But at the same time, one thing that's true for both of these, it depends on the skill of the person that you're working with. Because AI tools are great, but if you're not able to humanize them, if you can't use the right prompts, the results are not always going to be authentic. They can be pretty generic because everybody, you still see like a lot of people create imagery using AI, right? Or even ChatGPT is used to create copy, but it sounds like ChatGPT or it sounds robotic. So there is a certain skill that's required to humanize AI. So does that answer your question?
Yes. And I've got another one. So, what are the common mistakes people have when they want to use AI visuals. As you say, because I also see lots of images, I can immediately see this is made by ChatGPT or some AI tools because they're very robotic, as you said. But your images are so real and so creative. It's like basically also kind of art. It could be also an art on the wall, like in a in a big format if you print it, right? What are the common mistakes, or what kind of mistakes people can have when they start working with AI visuals?
We kind of touched upon one of them, which is the generic image. That's something I see as being extremely common because a lot of images out there, they look so generic, they look obviously AI, and those may be generated by a lot of these AI headshot apps or chat GPT or something like that, where they are kind of like a click of a button, so they lose that realness, or they may not have the same amount of artistic quality. Because at the end of the day, when you are a business, you're trying to distinguish yourself, you're trying to stand out, you're trying to position yourself. And that's the mistake a lot of businesses might do, is if you have especially like a high-end brand, you're charging high ticket prices and your images look generic, they don't sort of go hand in hand. You can get a sense if you go to the business's website or experience the images on social media that they don't have that luxury feel or the premium feel. They just look generic, like, and this can also be true for traditional images, by the way, where a headshot might be taken by your friend or somebody like that, which doesn't have that high end feel. So if your goal is to have a high end brand, that's the mistake you might do, is that your images don't exude that quality. The other thing with AI is also a bit of a bias where if you're not being represented maybe by your body type, you might be somebody who is slim, or maybe you're not so slim, and you want the AI images to actually look like you. Because in some cases, the AI has a tendency to slim all bodies. I've had that happen to myself, right? Where I'm like, oh, that doesn't look like me. Or my skin color, I'm an immigrant who's brown. I don't want to look white. So that can be like a AI bias. Um, Wait, there's one more thing. AI can be really creepy. I've done some images. We've all seen them where there are like six fingers or things like that, where you might, sometimes I have to admit, sometimes I've missed out on that little detail. So you really have to hone in and make sure that you have the right number of fingers. I actually ran an image and this was so funny. I had a necklace in my neck and there was a finger hanging out of it. It was just so hysterical. Um, so that was one. And one other last thing I can think of is the copyright gray zone. And I feel that that's an area which is still evolving because AI in its nature is regenerated. And there have been questions about copyright issues. And I've seen some conversations with the Chat GPT CEO Sam Altman having conversations about the copyright issues, sort of a thing. Um, so I think to summarize all of this, when you're using AI, like representation of you authentically as real as possible is really, really important because we've seen those cartoony looking, representation and things like that. So I would say that's a huge consideration. So at the end of the day, you look at the image and say, hey, does that really look like me? And I did an experiment recently with a client who had hired me for traditional photos in my studio, and I said, hey, would you mind if I, tested some in AI using the same image? And she said, yeah. So I ran it, and I created a LinkedIn post asking people, can you guess which one is real, which one is AI? And it was really hard to tell which one was which. And I had asked her also to guess when I showed them to her. And she had to really like think about it and to be able to kind of course she knew which was the real one because she was in that photo. But the other ones, it was really kind of, she had to really like look at it to figure it out. So I thought that was successful for me as an artist, was to create images that look so real that it could um, it could be used potentially for her branding.
Yeah, I was also just thinking when you were now telling this story that it's kind of making art with AI. Maybe it's also sometime will come. But for the end, could you give three advices to people who want to create or start creating AI visuals for their brands? What would it be?
So I think we live in an age now where there are so many AI tools that are available. So before, for to build a visual brand, you'd have to hire a designer, a photographer, a copywriter. So there's definitely options out there where you can learn, and for solopreneurs or entrepreneurs to be able to tap into these tools. And I can give like a few tools that people may be already using but can potentially use. And some of it is just about, you can do it the DIY route, or you can actually take some really good courses out there, right? You can invest in courses because at the end of the day, when you're learning yourself, sometimes you may not, um, you might miss out on certain things. And when you have expert instruction, it's a different experience. So things like logos and brand kits, there are Canva, which can be used. There's Adobe Firefly, which can help you build them. The same for like custom graphics. Midjourney is one of them. Dali is another one, which is a part of Chat GPT. So nowadays, with the prompts, they'll even ask you, do you want me to build you a graphic or something like that? Granted, some of the the output is generic, but if you are somebody that's starting out and you don't have a budget, that's always an option. And Canva is great because they actually have some templates. So you can have a template that you can start out with and then just be able to build on that. Um, for photo editing, there are different options out there. I don't use a lot of the phone apps, but there are like a bunch of different apps, and I'm trying to think. Facetune may be one of them to do certain amounts of free retouching and things like that. There's of course Chat GPT. It's great to generate ideas also, and kind of hone in your brand voice if you want to do that. For scheduling, which is for your social media, there are things like Hootsuite, Buffer. There was one more that I was using that I can't remember for social media. Later, it's called later.com. So there are so many different tools that you can use, which can save you time, save you money. Um, but if you are an entrepreneur who really wants to elevate your brand and up level it, there's nothing like finding help, finding the right professional, because you might be a yoga instructor or you might be a spiritual mentor. So you just have to look at, do I have the time to focus on doing a lot of the specialized type of work, right? Or is it just easier for me to farm it out? Now, because of AI, I've been able to also help my clients. For instance, I built a website for a client where I wrote the copy. She came in for traditional photos, and I also did her social media. But at the same time, I didn't try to do it all myself. I hired out some of the parts of the project to freelancers who were specialized in certain areas. So I was kind of like the project manager. I did things that I was good at, and then I farmed out things that the experts could help me with. So that's always something that I recommend. Instead of trying to do everything, focus on areas that you love to do and that you feel you can do in a really good way, especially if you want to um, put yourself out there as somebody who's an authority in your field.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. I can listen to you for hours. It's a very interesting topic. Thank you very much for joining me for this episode. And for those one who will watch and listen to us, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, to my podcast channels. And of course, you will find all the contacts of Alpa, her social media in the descriptions, under the video, under the podcast description. And see you in the next episode. So, Alpana, thank you so much for such an interesting topic.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.